That's not a disguise. It looks perfect. Perfect. It looks like
Yeah.
you.
Bobby, it's been a while since I've seen you. I thought I'd work on my disguise here, but I couldn't figure out how to stick the mustache on.
Dan, can you hear me? I hope you can. It's that
I hear you, buddy. I hear you. Can you hear me now?
I can, Dave. Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear as I got some mustache in my mouth there. Bobby, it's so good to see you. It's been a while since our days in Stanford there at NBC Sports. It's funny, no matter how much you've done in your life on or off the field or at Sacred Heart or in the Stanford community, you Google Bobby Valentine and that picture just comes up time and time again. And Bobby, everyone that shot me a question in advance of this interview wanted to hear the story again. So I'm apologizing to you, but if you can tell it to your fans one last time.
Dave, it's a long story, so we'll try to be quick with it. It was a stressful time with the New York Mets. Matter of fact, it's similar to the time that the Yankees are in right now because we were right around 500. It was the Subway Series time, interleague series, that is. And three of my coaches were fired 3 days prior to this happening. So everyone was on edge, wondering what was going to happen. And in an extra inning game, I called a pitch out. Mike Piazza got the pitch out, threw it to second base, and the home plate umpire was doing all crazy things with his hands. Mike turned around and started arguing. It was extra innings. I couldn't get him thrown out of the game, so I went out to intervene. And when I did, I asked the umpire what was happening. He said he called a catcher's balk. I had never seen a catcher's balk called before or heard of it. And so I asked him if I could get thrown out for what I was thinking, and he said no. I told him what I was thinking, and he threw me out. And so when I went back to the clubhouse, the guy said, "Get back out on the bench. The team needs you." And they gave me a hat and glasses, and then the mustache was my idea. And when I went out, they said no one would know. But you know what? Everyone knew. So
It's a
that's it.
legendary story. It is just, I've never seen a catcher's balk either. And Oral Hershiser playing a role in this whole thing just makes it one of the all-time great baseball stories. We're really excited for your mayoral run. And I know you're very proud of the fact that you raised $300,000 from about 1,000 donors. Tell us how you did that.
Well, a lot of hard work. I've had a great team that we put together. Dan Miller, my campaign manager, and all my staff. Just, we knocked on doors, we made phone calls, we reached out to friends, families, and friends of families, and families of friends, and just asked if they could contribute, if they believed in what I was doing, if they wanted to support what I was doing, and that is running for mayor of Stamford, Connecticut, my hometown, a place I was born and raised, a place that my, grandparents came 111 years ago and settled right here in Stamford. And I said, we're coming out of COVID. We need leadership. I'm a leader. I'm going to run for mayor. I'm going to win this thing. And a lot of people believe that and have contributed so far.
My first reaction was, you've just done so much in your life. I mean, you're a Major League Baseball player, managed 3 teams, managed in Japan, won a title there, Sacred Heart athletic director. And Bobby, I'm just going to be honest, because I've worked at Fox News and I've worked at CNN, and I've never seen a time that politics turns me off more. It's so divisive. It's so ugly. It's so hateful. And I thought, at 71 years young, all you've accomplished, why do you want to get into politics?
At the beginning, I was saying, damn, that's right. It's the damnedest thing that I don't want to get into politics. What I want to do is I want to govern a great little city in America. I want to be a guy who is the leader to take us out of the pandemic and into a new world where small businesses can thrive again, where people can own property and pay their taxes and enjoy sending their kids to school again in this community where I went to public school. I think that everyone should want to have their kids go to public schools. And it's just that time that I am ready to be the public servant to give back to the community that gave me so much during my life. You know, they gave me my education, they gave me the direction, they supported me everything that I did as a child and as a high school student. And then when I came back and I opened the business, this is the community that supported my restaurant business. And for 40 years as a small business owner in both the restaurant business and 15 years in the youth sports business, this community has supported me. I want to get back.
So you don't see the same divisive atmosphere that we see on the national cable news. Is that just not the case at the local level?
Well, I believe it's not. And that's why I'm running unaffiliated, which means I'm affiliated with everyone, or I'm not affiliated with any party. I want the people to understand that this is not about politics. This is about people, the people of Stamford, the potholes that have to get fixed, the schools that have to be rebuilt and redefined, if you will. It's about the living standard that needs to be one that makes a great city great. And that means everyone can afford to live here and everybody can enjoy paying taxes so that the city runs properly.
Okay, I want to circle back to all things politics and the fact that you are unaffiliated. Let's touch up on a few baseball issues because everyone wants to hear your baseball opinions. They always have, including your days at ESPN. So that time you were with the Mets, aside from the disguise, you also managed that team at a pivotal time in this country. You managed them through 9/11. I understand you're involved with the documentary with Joe Torre and Turner Sports. Can you recall just how important baseball was 20 years ago, and specifically Mets baseball was?
Well, Dave, first off, remember that the fear and the uncertainty that we had after the terrorist attack on our country was very similar to 16, 17 months ago of the uncertainty and the fear that we had because of the coronavirus. And you know, that it takes time to get over the fear and it takes time to get over the uncertainty. And I was lucky enough to be in New York at the time, leading a New York Met team, but also helping lead the community back to normalcy, lead the city of New York and the surrounding community back to a feeling of security. And I think that's needed again today. And, you know, you can't teach experience. And I have experience. So I'm hoping that will all translate and transform what's happening here in Stamford in the next few months.
I think it's a good point that baseball is leading people back to normalcy today. People are returning to packed stadiums and starting to feel somewhat of a normal routine. Are you a Mets fan today? How excited are you for Steve Cohen and his team in first place and a better record, mind you, than the New York Yankees?
Well, again, it's a crazy world that we're living in because they just played a interleague Subway Series, and the talk was about the Mets being in first place and about firing the manager of the Yankees. What a flip that is, huh, Dave? That 20 years ago, or basically all the years of the interleague series, the topic usually was the Yankees in first, and what are we going to do about the management of the Mets? So, you know, I'm a fan of baseball. I really enjoy watching the Mets this year. I was with Steve Cohen just a week ago. I love what he's doing. I love his personal relationship that he's establishing with players and his coaches and manager in his organization. And I think that, you know, his attitude is filtering down. And attitude is one of those things that does filter down. Most everything else filters up, you know. But if you have the right attitude at the top, everyone gets to feel it. And I think they're feeling Steve Cohen's presence right now.
Boy, it's starting off well for them. Jacob deGrom helps all things. Is he the best pitcher in Mets history? They've had some good ones, Doc Gooden, Tom Seaver among them.
Yeah, I think he's the best pitcher ever pitched, not only in Met uniform, in any uniform. And I only say that because A, of his consistency, B, of his stuff, his velocity, his slider breaks so perfectly, his change phenomenal. His athleticism is right up there with Tom Seaver's and Doc Gooden's, and that he throws a little faster than everyone else, and he throws that velocity more consistently than anybody else. I coached Doc Gooden, Ian Tom Seaver. I was a third base coach when Tom Seaver came back. I hit against Tom Seaver. I hit against Bob Gibson. I hit against Steve Carlton, Juan Marichal, and they were all great. But Jacob deGrom, I think, is just a little better, and that's almost blasphemy, but I think he's just a little better.
I think I got to agree with you there. I wish he was participating in the All-Star festivities, but he is going to pass. This may be a question for Dan, who I'm sure is with you, but VTL18 wants to know, when does Bobby campaign merchandise come out? Where can they buy it?
Well, it's coming out within a week. We're going to open up our campaign headquarters that we're sitting in right now, as a matter of fact, and we're going to open up in about 3 days. The merchandise will probably be on the premise within a week, and the hats and the T-shirts and everything else will be available soon.
I think you're going to have a mustache. I'm just throwing one out there.
I could just, with Stanford on the mustache. I like that. Yeah, that could be it.
I think that might be kind of cool. It worked better than what I had, because this clearly did not do it.
That's a little more Raleigh fingerish than Bobby Valentine.
It's very much Raleigh fingers. You missed him in Japan, but I'm just curious your take on Shohei Ohtani, who has 32 home runs at the break. And oh, by the way, for those of you who don't know him, he's a pitcher. He had 5 in a week in which he also won on the mound. I'm like Tom Hanks in the movie Big. I don't get it with this guy. I've never seen anything like it. Did you know of the legend when you were in Japan? And how do you account for what he's doing on the mound and at the plate?
Well, he's just special. I've never seen anyone like him. He's continues to amaze me. My best friend's son is the general manager of the Angels, so I follow that team all the time. And because I have a lot of friends from Japan and in Japan, I follow every step that Ohtani makes. One of the most amazing things he did was the other night, where not only he hit home runs in a game, but he gets a base hit in a tie game. He steals second base. And now, with a line drive, one hop, a single to right field, and right field is where you have the best throwing arm, he scores from second base. And the time it took was less than 7 seconds. So he ran from second to home in less than 7 seconds to score the winning run, and it went unnoticed. Anybody else doing that, they would say it was the most phenomenal thing they ever saw. But because he hit the home runs and he pitched the game before, and he is such a phenom, they just said, oh, ho-hum, he can do that in 7 seconds. He's pretty cool.
And that shows the effort that he's giving, the care that he has, and the fact that he's participating in the home run derby, I think, is terrific. He seems to care about the good of the game a lot more than some of the stars from this country. I would love to have seen Guerrero and Tatis and some of these guys that can grow the game, in particular for young kids, participate and get people involved, because the game needs those young stars to really participate. But Bobby, the big story has been the sticky stuff. I mean, the sticky stuff on the baseball has been all they've really talked about. Guys are pulling their pants down on the field to get examined by the ump. A couple of guys have been tossed. How long has this been going on? I mean, I know I covered the Red Sox when Clay Buchholz was using Bullfrog sunscreen indoors to throw a no-hitter. How long has it been going on? What have you seen put on the baseball? And how do you think Rob Manfred, the commissioner, has handled the issue?
I think the issue should have been handled before the season started. Everyone knew what was going on for a long time. If, in fact, this problem had to be resolved, it should have been resolved across the bargaining table with the union before the season started. And to do it midseason, I think, was a misstep. That being said, the sticky stuff, if you will, is so sticky now that it's perfected the way people can manipulate the ball. Now, it's been manipulated for a long, long time. People say it's part of the game. I remember I was 21 years old at Candlestick Park when my pitcher, Bill Singer, had some stuff in his hair that was glistening in the sunlight, you know. And when the umpire came out to check him, I said, oh, gosh, he's going to get thrown out of the game. And after the umpire checked him and looked at the dugout of Charlie Fox and said, I can't find anything, Charlie, he then looked over his shoulder at Bill Singer and said, wipe some of that off in between innings, okay, kid? So, you know, it's been a long, long time. It's just that this particular foreign substance creates a different spin rate. And spin rate is what affects the ball as it moves and any that it moves. And I think they had to stop it. But I don't think they had to stop it abruptly and the way they did it. And, you know, when the umpire checks them in between innings, I'm guaranteeing a couple umpires are saying, hey, I think you got a little too much. Make sure you take a little off in between innings.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't follow the game, spider tack is what they're using now, and we have seen dramatically different results from some of these pitchers, including the highest paid pitcher in baseball who throws for the Yankees. Do you like the brand of baseball played today? It pretty much is a home run with the launch angles or a strikeout, and a lot of people have just lost their flavor for the game.
Well, you know, a lot what has been lost is that conversation, that father and son, that husband and wife, that gal and guy to guy could have during the game, because the conversation was usually to talk about what might happen next. And usually that was a hit and run or a steal or a bunt for a base hit or a squeeze if the guy was on third. There would be these conversations that went on that allowed the father and the son, if you will, or whatever, you know, conversation that was, to kind of relate to themselves, to each other in the game. All of that's been taken away with this ultimate outcome concept that you either walk, strike out, or hit a home run. And I think that that's been a problem. And I think what we have to do is, I don't know if you put a mandatory, you know, you have to have 3 plays during a game. I think the shift idea is never going to go away, but I think you should have a number of shifts, a limited number of shifts per game that a manager can use. And so that gets the conversation back in play. Oh, should he shift in the first inning with the bases loaded, or should he save shift to the 9th inning when the bases might be loaded, you know, and start to allow the fans to be part of the thinking process rather than just the appreciation process. Ooh, he threw 100. Ooh, he hit it 400. You know, that's not enough for today's fan to just appreciate what's going on. I think they want to participate a little more in at least the thinking process.
I've never understood why guys can't learn how to bunt and stop teams from shifting. I would like to see no shift in Major League Baseball, but ultimately guys can learn how to bunt and defeat the whole principle. But we shift from baseball back to politics and to your mayoral campaign. What did you learn, whether it be in Japan or in New York or in a difficult situation in Boston, or maybe even at Sacred Heart, that most applies to this mayoral run and the job you want to do for Stamford?
Well, one, obviously, is you have to inspect what you expect. You know, you can't just put out an edict and expect that what you want will get done. I learned a lesson in Japan. I gave everyone a green light, and I couldn't figure out why no one was running. And trying to steal a base on their own, you got a green light, go. And when I finally had the conversation with my interpreter and a couple of the veterans, they explained to me that they understood what a red light was and they understood what a yellow light was, but they didn't understand what a green light was because the go light in Japan is blue. Huh? So when I inspected what I expected and they weren't running, I knew there was a problem, and I had to fix it. And I also learned through all of my failures and my successes that you have to make sure that you reward those who are doing the right thing, and that you need to reprimand those who are doing the wrong thing. And, reprimand has to be private at first, then with peers, and at last ditch effort in public, and reward must always be in public so that everyone knows when someone's doing a good job.
Speaking of good job and about failures, there must have been something that the current mayor, David Martin, who's going for a third term now, there must have been something that made you think, all right, I need to get in this race that he's doing wrong. What was that thing that you said, I can do that better?
No, actually, that thing was that his own party decided to primary him. That the Democratic Party in our city decided a two-term mayor wasn't doing a good enough job, and that they think that another candidate should be the candidate for mayor. And once I saw that that's what was happening, I figured if they think he's not doing a good enough job, what am I supposed to think?
State Rep Carolyn Simmons, who has done very well raising money herself, is in this race. But are you saying you thought he was doing a good job?
I think David Martin's done a fine job. I don't think it's been a great job. And I think that his people skills have left a little to be desired, and that leadership into this next era that we're going into needs to be a different kind of leadership. And I think I possess that.
From a policy perspective, how are you different than David Martin? How are you different than State Rep Carolyn Simmons?
Well, the policy ideas have not been on the table, so I can't tell you what Caroline's total policies are or what David's total policies are, but I can tell you that I believe our city needs to revolve around the ability to live here and live here affordably, and also to live here with ownership. I think that the small business part of our community is the engine that drives the bus, and that we need to recruit and retain small businesses in our community. And for someone who's been in small business in our community for 40 years, I think I have a little leg up on everyone there. And I think that the perception of our schools needs to be different. I think that we graduate students who go on to some of the best universities in the country. As a matter of fact, graduate as many as their surrounding communities. But that's not the perception that people have of our schools, and that needs to change. And the fact that we need to spend over $500 million and maybe as much as $1 billion resurrecting the facilities that our students go to school in, I think that takes a special kind of leadership, and I think that I possess that skill set.
And it takes a lot of money. And where are we going to get that money? I mean, this is a state in deep fiscal trouble.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of avenues, especially today. There's federal financing and state financing, and there might even have to be some public-private financing that exists in order for us to accomplish everything we have to accomplish. But it's difficult, but it's definitely not impossible.
One potential source of revenue was the legislation just signed by Ned Lamont to legalize marijuana. Do you support that? And do you support Stanford becoming a center for marijuana manufacturing and growth?
I don't know about manufacturing because I think that our land needs to be used for other things, but I think that marijuana is here to stay. And I think that with the state passing the legislature that allows it to be legal, I think Stanford will be that you'll be able to uh, own a dispensary, sell it, and also buy it.
And our state is, I think, between 47th and 49th in the country economically. Is there something you can do to generate business, to attract big business to Stanford, or is there something Ned Lamont has failed to do in your estimation?
Well, our tax base has been a little stumbling block, but you know, Dave, I did a little video a couple weeks into our campaign, and that video got 95,000 views on Twitter in 3 hours. And in the first month of our campaign, Stanford has appeared in national, regional, and local media outlets more than it's appeared over the last couple years combined. If that in itself isn't an attraction, I don't know what is. I think that I could be a champion of our city to let those people who want a new location, and not only those who are fleeing New York, but those who are establishing new companies and those who are looking for new places
Yeah.
to have their roots. I mean, I'm a guy I can sell. I'm good at that, and people already associate with me with Stamford, Connecticut. If I can now be the mayor of Stamford, Connecticut, I think that seals the deal.
Attracting business, I hope, is the priority of whomever wins and whoever is our next governor. We've chased him away for far too long. An interesting, speaking of, investigation report by the Connecticut Mirror showed that of the federal dollars coming for COVID relief, 6 out of 10 of those federal dollars are going towards public pension funds, which is one of the biggest problems the state of Connecticut has. Would you reallocate in your decision? I mean, would it be your decision to reallocate some of that money, or do we need to take a stand on public pension funds?
And again, that's out of my domain at the state level. And pensions are here to stay, just like marijuana is, I believe. But there's probably going to be some adjusting coming up in the future, and hopefully it'll be the proper adjustment.
Okay, so we started with probably the most famous story about you, which of course is the disguise. But Bobby, I think one of the most amazing things that you've accomplished, and if people Google this, I don't know how many people actually know. I mean, I think you're like the Forrest Gump of baseball managers, because everything he did was so memorable and impactful. Not the like I was running, but he met the president twice and went to Vietnam and All-American at Alabama. You invented the wrap sandwich. For people that don't know this, I mean, that's enough to put on your tombstone if you did nothing else in life. Folks, Google it. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, all of them give credit to Bobby Valentine for inventing that. Can you give us that story before we go?
Well, the story is pretty simple. I was cooking. I was behind the line. I was flipping hamburgers, and the president of the bank that gave me the loan to open my restaurant back in 1981 came in and wanted a club sandwich. Our toaster was broken, and there was no way of making a club sandwich other than to take all of the ingredients and put it in a 10-inch tortilla shell. I had just ordered tortilla shells from Phoenix, Arizona, because the food purveyors in this area weren't serving Mexican food. It didn't have tortilla shells to buy, and they were sitting there. So I just took all the ingredients of a club sandwich, including the mayonnaise, and rolled it up and then put a couple pieces of cheese on the top and put it under the salamander and melted the cheese to hold the flap of the tortilla from opening up. And then I cut it in the three sections. I put it on a plate and I told my waitress, go serve this and tell them it's a club Mexican style. He liked it so much, we put the Club Mex on the menu. And when the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times tried to disprove that in 1981 it was the first American sandwich that was wrapped, they realized no one had a menu predating 81 with a wrapped sandwich. So, boom, I created it.
That seems like a multi-billion-dollar idea in and of
Yeah.
itself, but I don't feel like you got rich off that.
Are you kidding? You know how many Club Mexes we sold? Yeah, Dave. I mean, we sold them all the time.
That's just a wonderful story. What an amazing footnote on a brilliant career that could now include being the mayor of Stamford. If you had to eat just one thing, speaking of food, let's wrap this up with the food question. If you had to eat just one thing, and it might be on the menu there at Bobby V's, what is that one thing?
Eggplant Parmesan. It's
That's
my
one
go-to.
thing.
That's my go-to dish. Yeah, and if you serve it in your house, I'll come over and eat it at your house. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about going around to all the restaurants that serve it in Stamford and having an award, but maybe that's going to be after I win the election because I don't want to get all those people who come in second not vote for me. You know what I mean?
Eggplant Parmesan. Okay. I think there was one question that came in from one of your viewers, and that was, yep, Christina Caputo would like to know how you feel about medical freedoms. Should universities like Sacred Heart, pardon me, be allowed to force things like vaccinations?
Wow, it seems to be the mandate that many are doing, and I'm not sure that I'm in favor of it, and I think that we just have to figure out what we're doing with vaccinations and masks moving forward, because I don't think this is the first or the last pandemic that we're going to have to deal with. So I guess we all should get on the same page somehow.
Were you vaccinated?
I was.
You were. Okay. And Bees in Love has our last question, and it's one that's close to your heart. It says the baseball fields across Stamford are in terrible shape and monopolized by private organizations. How would you address that?
Wow, I think our parks are the hidden treasure of our community, and they're the most underutilized asset that we have. And as a mayor, I will make it a priority to not only fix them up and make them available to our community, but make them a shining light for the city of Stamford, because many of them are on the waterfront. We have great park space, but we don't use it properly.
Well, the Stamford Bombers just replied yes with 3 exclamations. Stamford Bombers are now for Bobby V. Bobby Valentine, good to see you again, my friend. Best of luck and the rest of this mayoral campaign. We'll see you in Stamford soon.
Thanks, Dave. Great job. Good luck to you,
Thank
Bill.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and good luck to Bobby. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight on Stamford Magazine. Shoot me a DM with any questions, concerns, or comments at Dave Briggs TV, and have a wonderful weekend.